Okay, that's a good one. What else? Chores? Oh, yeah.
Listening to people complain.
Oh, isn't that an energy suck? That one's rough. Yeah, so those are really good. So what happens when you're starting to get that feeling, you go, oh, I am totally bored and totally dissatisfied of this. And that's why I feel this way. When you notice that feeling, where do you feel it in your body?
Like
Uh-huh.
the gut and the heart.
Okay, so you feel yours in your chest, you feel yours in your heart, you feel yours in your gut.
Like my, what's it called?
Solar
Either
plexus?
solar plexus or
Solar
diaphragm.
plex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I've had some clients, they feel it really bad in their head. I had one that felt it in her foot. Never had that before yet. That was pretty exciting. I'm like, what? But I didn't say that. I just kept it in my head. So what about anger? So we use a lot of words for anger, but anger, aggression, rage, all of that is anger. But let's say you're getting a little angry about it, and then you're like angry about it. That's just a different level. It's still anger. But do you think anger is good or bad?
Oh.
Love it. Yes. You're right. It's bad. It's negative and positive. So I want us to get real comfortable with realizing none of them are bad. And what does this look like here?
A battery.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. When you hold a battery, do you look at it and you're like the flat negative side? You're like, you're bad! You know, and the positive side, you're like, oh, you're so good. Like, who does that? Because you look at the battery and you realize it needs the negative and the positive to work. The same thing works for your human beingness. You need your negative emotions and your positive emotions. If you felt good all the time, are you going to want to change much? No, you'll pretty much stay the same. But what motivates you to make change?
Failure.
And do you feel good about it?
Yes.
Do you feel good about failing?
No.
Right. It's that feeling of, oh, this doesn't feel so good. I want to change this feeling so it feels better. So if we got real comfortable, and just so you know, guys, your parents probably don't know this information. Your teachers don't know this information. It's not in our culture. Our culture says these feelings are bad. Don't feel them. What do people say when they feel really bad? What do you see on TV? Like, I feel so bad. I lost my friend. What is the answer?
Sad.
Yep, you are sad. But what do they say the answer is? How they go and fix it? What do grown-ups always say? Yeah, move on. Get over it. Go get a drink. Get another friend. You know, like, replace the problem, but don't deal with the emotion. But if they're both good, right, then it's like, hey, let me learn how to work with it. And you can actually teach your friends this information. You can teach your parents this information. Nobody knows this information, which blows my mind. It totally does. So anger is really the body and the mind going, hey, this isn't fair. This isn't cool. And then the next step is to set boundaries. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to set boundaries without being a butthole. Most people, by the time they're ready to set boundaries, they're like, I hate you, get away from me, I said no, shut up. You know, and it's like, then it's not really helpful. But if you had some ways to be able to set a boundary with somebody and be like, hey, I really appreciate what you're saying. I appreciate that you're having that feeling, but I need this, right? Because when you say or do this, I feel and think this, and I need this. And you're able to do it all very neutrally and make the other person take their responsibility while you take your responsibility. And it's way cool. And it works really good in relationships. It works really good even with yourself. Okay, so guilt. Who's dealt with guilt? I think I even heard you say that today.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes parents have a practice of making you feel guilty because they believe that making you feel guilty is going to make you do it better next time. Because that's what they were taught growing up. And so they might give us the wrong information. Sometimes teachers too, you might see a teacher make a kid feel really guilty in front of the whole room. Because that teacher has the idea that somehow that's going to teach that kid a lesson and help him learn, when really they're just making that kid feel really bad and really ashamed. So how does guilt come up for you? Like when you said you feel guilt, is it because you feel like you're to blame for something or you're bad?
The guilt comes from me not being able to express how I want to apologize.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's hard to explain. Like, I want to apologize, but I don't know how to bring myself to it. So then I start feeling down, saying that like there's literally no point in presenting myself.
My writing is terrible, so I apologize for that. That's why I wrote that beforehand. So what if you now have what you can call a blueprint or a checklist or a template?
Right.
So let's say, for example, do you mind sharing what you feel guilty about, or do you want to make something up?
I feel guilty about putting my aunt and uncle through stress.
Okay. Aw. You know how many kids feel that way, right? But you don't have to feel guilty. What guilt is telling you, guilt is saying you need to be fair, right? And if you're not being fair, guilt comes in to help you clean it up. These are all positive emotions. They're here to help you fix stuff. So if guilt is here, I'm going, okay, I know guilt is here to help me clean stuff up. And by the way, you guys can take a picture of this to remember this stuff to practice. Okay, so if guilt is here to help me clean stuff up, how do I do it? That's another thing. People usually get to the point where they're all stressed out and they're trying to talk and it doesn't come out really well. Now it's a big fight. Now you feel more guilty. So
That's
positive.
exactly what happens.
Yeah. So we're going to give you step by step of what you can do. So first you're going to do a positive statement. Now, I always say a positive statement doesn't have to sound like you're blowing smoke. You're not trying to be fake. Not like, I love you so much. You know, it's like, hey, I really want to talk to you about something. That's a positive statement. You're connecting with that person. Or if it's your aunt and uncle, I'm sure you love them, right? So it's like, you guys, I love you so much. I would love to talk to you. Positive statement. So the positive statement is to connect with that person. Because in this moment, I'm not feeling the connection. I'm feeling pissed. You're feeling pissed. I want to be away from you. You want to be away from me. So a positive statement can even say, I know you're upset with me, and I know you probably don't want to listen to me right now. Is there a good time we can talk? So coming in with that positive connection. That's what that sounds like a monkey.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
What does guilt mean again?
Guilt is there to help you create fairness. So if you've
Fairness?
not been fair, like let's say you hurt somebody
Uh-huh.
and you got to clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
So the best way to think about it is guilt is there to help you clean it up. That's the way I like to say it. The writer of the book who did this, it's about being fair to that other person because you were just unfair. But I like to say it's about cleaning up your mess. And once you've cleaned up your mess, if you're still beating yourself up with guilt, then you're just beating yourself up. Then guilt is there to be a tattletale to say, hey, you're using this to make yourself feel terrible. You've already cleaned it up. Now you're just practicing self-abuse.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm writing notes. Just
Good.
so you know, I don't want you to think I'm like,
No, perfect. I love it.
because I'm trying to make sure I know.
If you guys want, my number is right here. You can text me and I can send you this information in a Word document.
Okay.
So that way you can copy it anywhere you want, put it in your notes, have it all the time. So number 2, this is literally what you can say. So when you say or do, fill in the blank. So let's say, for instance, what was your aunt and uncle doing when you guys had that problem?
Wait, what do you mean?
So what had you get upset with them to do what you did to create the guilt situation?
Long story short, my uncle got my hopes up for a job that I wanted to do, but since I was on the phone with a friend, he said I looked busy and he let my sister do it. So that's what
Okay.
got me.
So when you he was offering a position or a job opportunity for
He
you
was
that you
just
get paid?
doing wiring and he needed me in the roof.
So basically to help him?
Yes.
Okay. So when you, and then this is something he said, right? When you offered for me to help, so what you're doing is you're putting in the situation or the behavior. You're not attacking the person. So a lot of times you might say, that was just stupid, or you left me out, or you don't care what I think. We're going to put exactly what the issue is. So we're keeping it at hand, and we're not bringing up 20 other problems either. People like to do that.
That's hard.
Yeah, but once you have this, you just fill in the blank. So it makes it easier. It reminds your brain what to do, so you don't do what you automatically do. That makes it hard.
Right.
Number 3, I feel and think blank. So he didn't know your hopes were up. He probably still doesn't know, right? So when you offered for me to help, I was really excited. right? My hopes were up. My hopes were up. I was excited to help. Because I think electrical is cool, right? Probably?
Yes.
Okay. I think electrical. And do you like helping him?
Yes.
Is cool, and I like helping. So you could also say, I felt sad because you asked my sister and not me. Right? You can take a look at, and you'll notice this as we go over it more. Oftentimes, you might only notice, I felt angry. But as you begin to think about it, well, I felt kind of dissatisfied about that too. And, you know, I felt mad at him, so I felt angry that I was mad at him. And I felt sad because I felt kind of disconnected from being able to do that. And then I felt kind of lonely because I'm pissed off at him, and now I feel separation in my relationship. And we didn't get to these yet, but I feel inadequate because now I don't know how to talk to him. I just want to yell at him and be mad. And now I feel stressed because I'm feeling all this stuff, and now I'm afraid I'm going to say something really bad. So all that's going on, which has the mind and body really even more into this stress and overwhelm. So without knowing how to do this, the mind and body's going, and that's not what you want to do. What you want to do is say, hey, I want to help, right? And so that really brings you back into relationship with the person and takes you out of all of that that's going on. Okay, so you're able to share what you feel and what you think. And then number 4, I need. Most of the time, we never do number 3 and we never do number 4. And so what number 4 is it's letting the person know what you need and what's going on. So say, for instance, with your uncle, maybe there's nothing to fix because it's already done. But I need you to know the reason I reacted was because I felt this. I really love you. I really care. My anger wasn't about being mean or being hateful or whatever came out. My anger was because when you offered for me to help, my hopes were up real high, and I really wanted to do that with you. Like, that's going to help him feel your connection and your love versus all that other stuff that was going on. And then number 5, so there's different ways that you can say this, but the idea is to, what do they hear you saying, right? So get feedback. So it could look like, what do you think? Do you think? What do you hear me saying? Can you tell me what you understand? So it's getting that person to make sure that you've been clear in what you're trying to say. If that other person says, well, I hear you saying you were all pissed off because I didn't then they're not really hearing you, they're upset. So now you can still hear they're upset, and so you can actually go into, hey, I hear that you're still upset, tell me what's going on. So it keeps you connected with that person, and this works with grown-ups, this works with kids, this works with every single person you'll ever deal with. This also works in relationships with best friends or people you're dating. People do not know how to do this. And it's sad because it'll break up families, it breaks up relationships, it makes people sick because they don't know how to express themselves. Okay, so I just want to go over each one of these, and then what I would like to do is just create a scenario where you might feel something, and I gave you an example of the guilt, right? So your primary emotion only seemed to be guilt, but now that I've gone through each one of these, you can go, yeah, each one of those was going on. Right?
Yeah, it started from the dissatisfied, and then it went to anger, and then it went to loneliness, stress,
inadequate,
then guilt.
And then guilt. And so without even knowing it, fear is in there too because we're afraid that this is going to create a problem, right? In which case it did. So now fear is solidified, got what I thought I didn't want, right? And so it's really important for each of you to notice that this happens almost every single time you think you have one emotion. This is going on. And so when you begin to understand this, if this is not taken care of, you end up in level 2. And oftentimes we use the emotion frustration to describe ourselves as if that's the only thing. Frustration is the tattletale, but a good tattletale, like if you're finding a kid going out in the street, you want to tell. Frustration is here to tell you you're doing this process and you're not handling it. So right now it sounds like you're in frustration because you've been going through this loop and you don't know how to get out. Okay? Now what also happens is if this frustration builds, we can't always be up in this place where it's built. Then what happens is the body needs to depress it to bring it down, to calm the heck down. So then level 3 is depression. Now, what we're taught in our society is depression is a terrible thing, and it means you need to be on medication. It means you need to go eat a bucket of ice cream or drink a lot of alcohol. Now I'm exaggerating, but that's a lot of what you're
society likes.
Exactly. But what if it's that a natural experience in your body? Now, not to say that some people aren't experiencing depression the way that's described, right? It can need medication and be a chemical imbalance. But in a natural situation, if your body's frustrated all the time, it has to bring it down. It's a normal experience for the body to calm down when this is going on. So the word depress, it literally is just depressing it down to say, whoa, calm down. What are some ways that people can experience depression that don't look like the movies? Like if you're not crying in your bowl of ice cream?
Like really,
What could be a way of experiencing depression if it doesn't look like you're crying in your ice
like
cream?
really, distant and dry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
So another way it could
I
be.
eat ice not for depressed.
You need what?
I eat ice.
Ice, okay. So for you, it'd be chewing on ice, comfort, coolness, right?
Oversleeping or binge eating.
Yep, it could look just like that too. Anything else?
Skipping class.
Skipping class. Another one that people don't think about, whatever, I give up.
Like saying I'm fine.
Kind of shutting down, I'm fine, not.
Call me out like that, Miss Joanne?
No, it was
What
She said
happened?
the I'm fine.
Oh my bad, that was
No,
mine.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, not like Miss Joanne.
Yeah. So yeah, saying I'm fine when I'm not I'm fine, just kind of shutting down from other people. Or it could sound like a lot of different things. It could be like, I'm super okay, I'm great, but putting on instead of being able to connect. So this looks different for every person. When I'm working with my clients and we talk about depression, they're like, I feel a little depressed, but I'm okay, I don't want to kill myself. Like they're so afraid to talk about depression because in their mind it means this other thing. But it doesn't have to mean that. It could mean that, and it usually means that when we end up staying stuck here. When we don't know how to get out of this, and we keep doing this, and the only way to get out of this is this because we don't know how to do this. So there's so many people that end up living here, and so then they try to find new ways to get out. And so then they might find drugs, or they might find alcohol, or they might find sex, or they might find whatever to try to feel better. This doesn't have to happen. This is another tattletale. Go ahead.
But it'll never go away.
It'll never go away. Every single one of these can go away. So let's say, for instance, when I say go away, they don't disappear. You don't want them to disappear. They're part of helping you to see something's needed, right? So let's say, for instance, I'm feeling super depressed, which means I feel like I want to go lay in bed. So I go lay in bed, and now my mind is kind of calm from all of this. So if I used this properly, I'd be able to go, okay, just like you did. Tell me your name, darling.
Ramaya.
Ramaya.
Yes.
My memory needs help, so I might have to ask you again. So what she just did, and probably never has before in her life, is walked through the process her emotions took her. Where in most situations, she'd be like, I was just angry, and now she's like, I'm guilty. And this is where she's living. But now she's able to step out and go, whoa, I was doing all of that. And it happens over and over again really quick. So you don't even know you're doing it until you fall into frustration again, and then you fall into depression, and then you're doing it again. So So what this tells us, frustration tells us, what emotion is it that we're bogged down with? That's what it's telling you. Take a look and see what emotion are you bogged down with, and you might be all of them. So we just went through dissatisfaction, we went through anger, we went through guilt. Sadness tells us that there's something in our life where we're experiencing loss, right? So I felt lost because now I don't even want to talk to my uncle. And I don't want to talk to my sister either because she took away the thing I wanted. And so sadness is there to tell us, hey, you need to keep that value with what's going on. Oftentimes it'll show up in grief or detachment, as you were talking about. And so we get to take a look and see what's going on. Am I detached or in grief for a good reason? Like, did I really lose something? And if the answer is no, she didn't lose her uncle, she didn't lose her sister, but in her thinking, she has. So then that's there to tell you, hey, you've got to clean up your thinking. Loneliness. Loneliness is telling you you've either connected to a bad crowd, or you've connected into something you don't want to be into, or you're just not getting out there to be with your friends. You're not calling people, you're not connecting. So loneliness is to say, hey, get out there and create those relationships. Inadequacy is the same thing of not good enough. I feel not good enough. I feel like I'm messing up. I feel like I'm making mistakes. So inadequacy, when you feel that feeling, it's there to say, hey, you're telling yourself you're not good enough. You're telling yourself that you have done something wrong. You're not giving yourself acceptance. You're rejecting yourself. You good?
No, I heard someone call. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, there's actually a room right over here where they're doing like karate and stuff, so you hear all kinds of noise. But I think there's somebody in that
What's
back office, too.
interesting, well, RC may be here, he's one of the co-owners of the space, there's a room back there. But what's interesting that now that she said that is there's actually an MMA group, there's an MMA gym connected to this same building.
Oh.
So-
I've been seeing it every time I walk past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What'd you say the name was?
Because you guys do that, so I
Mike
thought it
Bell,
was just.
It's Mike Bell and his guys.
I believe so, yeah.
So the other stress is overwhelmed. So this is probably something you're never going to hear, because in school they teach you, and you just need to learn it all. But if there's a different part of your mind that you're not used to working with that could help you, you really want to access it. Right now, you guys are functioning from what's called your conscious level. You're aware of it, you're conscious of it, you know what's going on. But there's also a subconscious level that's going on for you. And that's why when I talk about hypnotherapy, people think that hypnotherapy is somebody doing something to you and controlling your brain and all that.
Because of the word hypnot.
Right. But
They
the
assume
idea is
that
you can hypnotize yourself. You
I've
do
done
it
that too many
every day.
times.
Yeah, you do it every day when you're watching TV, when you're playing video games, when you're on your phone. Because you're in your phone doing what you're doing, you don't know what's going on around you. You're not in the moment, you're in this moment, you know. I go on Snapchat and I play this snake game. Oh my gosh, I could play it for 2 hours straight without even, holy cow! Like, I was not in my world, I was in this game, getting people. I'm like, yeah, hey, got you,
Thing is, with me, I'm either super aware, but I'm staring, like, for example, I'm always on my phone, but I can still hear you, and I already know what words you're saying, and I'm responding to you. And other times, I'm just stuck in one place, and you know what that feels like because you're hypnotizing yourself to being in the phone, like you just said.
Yeah.
But for me, it's the special case where it's like I'm either too aware of everything while staring at something, or the most unaware person ever.
Yeah. But the good thing is you can change that if you want to. You don't have to. I mean, if there's not stuff going
It's like an
on.
on and off switch that's like a rhythmic metronome.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a metronome for me.
Yeah.
It keeps going back and forth.
Well, and you can start to find balance with it. You could turn it on and off on purpose and get real comfortable with, I want to turn this on, I want to turn this off.
Rhythm,
Mhm.
it's like nothing can stop.
Well, the thing to remember is you created it, so you can change it. It feels like nothing can stop it because you allow it to become automatic. So once it's automatic, it's like, like, who of you has to think about eating anymore? But yet, how many years did it take you to eat?
So
Right? Like 3 years you learned how to eat before you were sticking it in your ears and stuff? Right? Now you don't take your food and smear it on the wall. Like it's not a thing. But you did as a kid. It was just a thing. Yay! It was part of your day.
So you're telling me if I learn to stop time in my own brain, to stop that metronome, then I can be aware or unaware.
Yes. Because you create it until it becomes automatic, and
So
now it's
how
your
do I
automatic
become a
program.
Time Lord?
Say it again.
How do I become a Time Lord then?
Well, you become a time lord by paying attention to the time and how you're using it. I choose to be in this moment. I choose out. I choose to go back in. I choose out. I choose to go back. So you become more aware of it. And what else do you want to do with your time versus just sort of hanging out? So let's say, for example, this is interesting. We can practice. Let's say for a moment you want to allow yourself to become more aware. Allow it to take your attention and put it to the front of the room. And just notice in the front of the room. And focus, for me, the front of the room's over there. For you guys, the front of the room's over here. So focus on what's in the front of the room, and tell yourself you're only going to look at one thing and describe that one thing. So for me, I'm looking at that gray horse. So the gray horse that has ripples going around the nose, it has it going down, has the eye, has the hair, has a silver, has a dark. Okay, now I'm only going to give myself permission to look away right now, and I'm going to look at the monkey Buddha thing. And I'm not giving myself permission to look anywhere else. I'm looking at the monkey Buddha thing, and I'm thinking he's got big ears, he's got shiny texture, it's probably ceramic, cheeks. Okay, I'm only allowing myself to look away now, and I'm choosing the door. So that helps you to get real clear on you choosing to be mindful, not letting your mind run the old program. Make sense? Okay. It takes a little while to practice, of course. Okay, so tell me what you guys hear me saying so far about how this can help. And then I want to do it, we'll each pick an example and be each thing. So what have you learned so far? Like, I know this is all new information, but what is it bringing up for you? Like, what do you think about emotions now, or how you can react to them now? Go ahead.
So, I like how you're bringing that all up because that's like the ice one, like that they do, like for kids, like they do an ice or whatever, and then after all the emotions are on the bottom, and then it actually like shows how relevant it is and stuff like that. So that was really, really cool. But this piece right here, the boundaries piece, like it's so funny that like you mentioned those things because like yesterday, like she like basically did those things in the blue without even realizing it and stuff, and then I mentioned some things that are on that blue, so it's just really cool. It's like affirmation that like I'm doing what's right, and then she's doing what's right because she's learning and stuff. So it's just really cool how it's just it goes all together, and it's cool how today you're affirming it, and now we're like learning again about it, so a confirmation, so we continue to use it forward. So
Absolutely.
I like it.
Yes. And the programming that you do, whether you call it hypnosis or whether you call it mindset or whatever it is you want to call it, you are helping your subconscious mind relearn something new.
Yeah.
Your subconscious mind has believed that these things are bad. Your subconscious mind has believed that when I have these feelings and I think they're bad feelings, I have to avoid, I have to get angry, I have to cry, I have to drink, I have to oversleep. Now you have learned and taught your subconscious mind to actually know you don't. If these emotions are good and they're here to tell me I need to do these steps, then I don't have to avoid anything. If I want to take a minute to avoid, I can exercise, or I could cry, or I could eat healthy, or I could talk to a friend, but I don't have to avoid it long term. I can then go back to it and see what's needed, so then I never have to get stuck here. I realize these are just here to help me. But if I have clients who have this issue, I'm sure you know friends and folks, whenever they feel depressed, it's like, oh God, I can't talk about that. Don't even use that word. But why not? It's here to actually help you kind of calm down from this whole process of not working with this stuff. So a big piece of this is trying to remember what you do. So what do you do when you start to feel dissatisfied? What does this say here?
I redo everything. Create, stimulation, grow, do challenges.
Grow through challenges. You said you what?
I redo it over.
Redo it over?
Until I'm satisfied with what I did.
Okay. So what you're doing is you're recreating. You're creating a new stimulation. Right? I don't like this. I want to recreate this. Right? So that's what creating a stimulation that's what you do when you're bored or dissatisfied. There's a solution to it. So not just with assignments, but with relationships, with your own thinking, right? Anger, aggression, rage, setting boundaries. So it's there to tell you that it's